From the Beat generation to now, San Francisco has long been a city that loved, acknowledged, sometimes worshipped its poets and the art of the spoken word. And now, our present guest, someone who's done a lot of it for this generation, Michelle Tea. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine. I called you the lesbian queen of the spoken word. Do you think that's true?
Well, I'm more like the bisexual queen.
The bisexual queen. I apologize.
It's totally okay. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I do a lot of literary organizing,
Yeah.
and that puts me in the spotlight a lot, but I'm often there kind of talking about other people's work.
Yeah. But do you think that's true, that San Francisco really is kind of the center of spoken word in the country?
I mean, it really was in the 90s when I moved here. That was, I moved here to be a poet in the 90s, and I just knew this was the place for it. And it blew me away how right I was. There were, spoken word events happening every single night of the week in all different neighborhoods. You could just go in, get on stage, read your poems, and it was really inspiring. It was a really vibrant scene. There was a lot of really great work, and I wanted to participate, so it got me writing. Right.
Now, and you came right from Chelsea, Massachusetts to San Francisco?
More or less.
More or less.
Via a Tucson, stop off with a girl, it was a bad idea, and then straight on.
And has San Francisco turned out to be everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like it's my destiny to be here, much more so than I realized when I moved here. I thought I was going to lead a nomadic life. I was very romantic about, I was going to live in a van and travel around, even though I don't drive. I don't have a driver's license. I thought I'd still do that. So I didn't think I'd stay here, but it has everything that I was looking for and continues to.
The spoken word arena of the 1990s, I remember as well, and it was different, but it was also a different time. It was for the LGBT community, specifically the gay male community. It was a time of fear, AIDS. There were certainly a lot less laws protecting the LGBT community then. The spoken word was, a lot of it, but it was all angry.
Yeah. The 90s
I mean, do you need anger to be a successful spoken word artist?
Oh, God, no. I mean, it really helps you, I think. Anger can really help motivate your writing, especially when you're younger or first getting started. But it's only one note, so if that's all you're doing, you're just going to get burnt out. Your audience is going to get burnt out. You're just going to keep expressing the same emotion over and over again. As a writer, what you want to do is express as many emotions as possible and as many combinations.
Now, besides your spoken word work and the organizing and your poetry, you're a novelist as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which do you really consider yourself, or does it kind of go all over?
It's kind of all over. I really just consider myself a writer, and I write whatever I'm feeling at that moment. Right now, I'm mostly writing. Well, that's not true, actually. I'm doing a lot of, I used to do a lot of memoir. I guess I continue to, and but I'm also doing much more fiction than I used to.
What's hardest for you?
Fiction. Fiction is really hard. Memoir, the story's right there. All I have to do is almost show off a little bit. It just feels like showing off. Like I'm telling the story. I'm not making anything up. I'm just trying to impress you with, being a great storyteller. But with fiction, you're creating a whole world from the ground up. And
is your fiction really a complete fictional creation, or is it you with different names?
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's hard.
That's not really a fair question, because there's always a little bit of a writer in every character.
There is. There really is. I think for me, compared to having written straight memoir for so long, where my point and my ambition was to just document everything as truthfully as possible, now writing fiction just does not feel like me, because after just spending so long doing that, I just feel like I know what I'm doing to this character, and I know that I'm creating, fiction. But there's definitely similarities, and there are kind of issues or landscapes I'm really interested in, and so those continue to pop up in all of my writing. I have a book coming out this spring called Mermaid in Chelsea Creek, and it's a young adult book. It's a fantasy book. There's talking pigeons. There's a Polish mermaid, but it takes place in Chelsea, Massachusetts, where I'm from, where I've already written a lot of memoir about, and so there's that. And I'm writing about kind of a scrappy young girl who's sort of misunderstood and a little falling through the cracks, and that's what I'm interested in.
Sounds like a lot of autobiographical fiction in there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's more like maybe I'm creating this completely weird magical world, creating a bunch of, some different family situations, and then throwing this girl into it who is a lot like me and wondering, well, how would I have acted in that situation, I guess.
Now, if we, say that the 1990s was kind of a high point for spoken word here in San Francisco and the Bay Area, where are we now, 25 years later?
With spoken word?
Yeah.
It really doesn't have the excitement or the draw or the numbers both the numbers of people creating it or the numbers of people wanting to go and spend their night doing it. But you know, a lot of the people who I was writing or performing spoken word with in the 90s, they're still around today, and they're writing novels. They're still writing poetry, but it might not be so slam-based. So they've just sort of, I don't know, continued to have their work evolve.
I mean, has the Poetry Slam become the Facebook Slam?
Oh, I don't know if it has that much to do with that. It's really funny. I mean, there was definitely in the 90s, I remember there were some people who were getting up, and you could tell they were getting on the stage because the stage was there, and they wanted some attention. They weren't necessarily really writers. And I wonder if there's that, you know, portion of life that are now kind of getting that fix on
adulation
the internet.
or that attention on the internet.
Yeah. But, you know, there's definitely, there's a great open mic in the Castro, actually at Magnet, that's called Smack Dab, that a writer named Kirk Reed does, and that's still a vibrant, happening open mic. There's another one that's at Viracocha in the Mission downstairs that another slam poet named Sam Sachs does, called the new SHIT show. I don't know how you believe that. But so there's, you know, I feel like what's happened is, in a way it's not as popular, but there was a sense in the 90s that, like, you know, you couldn't, you know, your mother was a spoken word artist, like everyone was a spoken word artist, and now I just think that maybe the people who are writing poetry and doing spoken word, like, it's truly what they are and who they are. And
now, how have you changed both personally but also professionally as a writer since you drove in on that mythical van from Chelsea via Tucson?
Oh my God, it's countless. I wouldn't be able to, well, you know, I mean, I was like 22 and now I'm 41, so I've changed it all the ways a person's gonna, you know, change up into their 40s. You know, professionally, it's been mind-blowing. I just came here, you know, thinking that I would write poems, and I was really grateful to have a bar to go read them at, and I was really happy with that. And I thought, oh, I'll never get published in a real book, but I'll make my own books. And I published my own little poetry books, my chapbooks. And so, you know, to now be in a place where if I write a book, you know, knock on wood, I trust that I'll find a publisher. I won't have to publish it myself.
Yeah, but are writers still finding publishers for this? I mean, it gets harder.
It's hard for queer writers. It's hard for, you know, unattached writers that, you know, are maybe working class. They didn't go to the university. They didn't kind of get set up with those contacts. They're kind of coming at it from the outside like I did. It's really hard, which is why my organization, Radar, we began publishing this year in conjunction with City Lights Books.
Right. Well, that leads me to that. Tell me, what is the connection between Radar Productions and City Lights Books, which, I mean, probably is certainly the most famous booster of literature in San Francisco, in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're, you know, in Europe, you know, people who are interested in book culture in Europe know about City Lights, you know. Well, Radar Productions is, I've been doing literary organizing, producing, chapbook publishing, you know, since the 90s. Radar is sort of the umbrella that now collects all those activities and professionalized it. So whereas before I was putting together scrappy little readings in bars, now...
Right, here's a microphone, here's a stage, let's put on a show.
Yeah, now, you know, we have a regular monthly reading series at the San Francisco Public Library, and it's wonderful to get that kind of support. The library is amazing. So Sister Spit is one of our projects. It's a spoken word performance tour. I began in the 90s. We still do it, and so I brought this idea to City Lights saying, Sister Spit Books, you know, we have this built-in tour. We have the book tour is kind of, you know, built in. We go every spring all across the country. We'll publish a few books of people who are amazing and having maybe a hard time finding their way into the publishing world, and we'll take them across and we'll promote them. And so we just started doing that this year, or last year.
How do you fund this?
Sister Spit, let me see. How do we fund which part? Oh, God.
There's never been a lot of money in small book publishing.
No, there isn't. It really isn't. We are very fortunate to be working with City Lights, who are, they're stable. You know, like in a publishing industry right now, we've lost a lot of small presses, we've lost a lot of queer presses. City Lights is really, they're stable and they're wonderful, and they are in a position to take a chance on us, which is great. So we're doing it by just, they're letting me do like 2 to 3 books to start a year, and we'll see how it goes. And hopefully they're solid. I really believe in them. I think they're great work. I think we're lucky to have this tour to promote them. And
are they all, quote unquote, hardcover books? I mean, they're real paper versus ebooks.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're paperbacks. You know, but they're not ebooks.
Right. No. But what do you see that, you know, that convergence of, you know, good writing now? But even I admit, I love books. I love the smell of them. I like the feel of a hardcover novel in my hand.
Yeah.
But even now, I read 90% of my stuff on my iPad.
Yeah.
And I almost feel guilty sometimes, like, oh my
well,
God, there's
people like me
books
make
over
you
there.
feel guilty.
Yeah,
it's like our job.
Yeah. All right, so besides making me feel guilty, how are you and writers, young queer writers, bisexual writers, lesbian writers, going to make this transition to a day when we're not going to have paper books? Or do you think we're that close?
I don't think we're that close. I really don't. I think we'll always have paper books until we've just destroyed the environment and there's no more trees. Like that's maybe, you know, the problem down the line. But no, people are still very passionate about books, and we might become more of a niche than we were prior to everything going digital, but I think that's fine. There's still people who will prefer to read a book that's like a paper book, and there's a lot of people who read both, you know. I believe that we will have our books available on ebooks for folks that want to do it that way, for sure. But it's hard to, you know, doing a performance, it's hard then to, you can't bring the virtual book up on stage and say, buy this book, you know, you like to hold it up and here's the book, buy it. So, yeah.
In our last few minutes, talk to me about the spoken word work you do, the organizing. I know you just did an amazing event at San Francisco Public Library.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's becoming more and more popular. I think we're coming maybe to another golden age. I mean, I know that I hear about young people who are getting up on stages and microphones, like you said, in Magnet and the Castro, and I'm beginning to get a sense of more interest.
Well, I think that San Francisco is a city that is always interested in literature. So, you know, it might not be those particular spoken word open mics that everyone's flocking to, but there are so many literary events that happen throughout the city, and they're really popular. Writers with Drinks is really popular. There's a regular...
Litquake.
Yeah, Litquake is incredible. You know, there's the events that the Rumpus does at the Makeout Room. There's a lot of really wonderful events. And so, yeah, I don't think there's any shortage of audience for that, especially in San Francisco.
Got it. In our closing moments, any advice for a young writer that might be looking at this?
Yeah, just write your book. Publisher? Just write your book. Don't worry about a publisher. Write your book first. Everyone wants to worry about their publisher, but you got to write your book first, and then find me on the internet.
Good advice from Michelle T. Next up, our conversation with Todd Hill, Commissioner from the International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission. We'll be right back.